Have you ever been told you're not good enough, right when you needed just one chance? Imagine walking into an interview with hope in your heart, only to be laughed at, judged, and rejected before you could even finish your words. This is the story of a young woman who faced that exact moment, but what happened next shocked everyone in the room. Stay with me till the end, because her rejection turned into the most powerful twist you'll ever hear. And before we begin, make sure to hit like and subscribe to Goodness Corner, where real stories of courage and kindness remind us that one moment can change everything. The waiting room smelled faintly of coffee and nerves. 20 candidates sat in polished chairs, rehearsing their lines in their heads, adjusting ties, smoothing dresses, clutching resumes like lifelines. Among them sat Aisha, a young woman whose eyes betrayed both fear and determination. She had been preparing for this day for weeks, reading everything she could about the company, practicing questions late at night, reminding herself that she deserved a chance. But deep down, a whisper of doubt echoed in her chest. She had no wealthy background, no prestigious university degree, and the shoes she wore still carried the faint scratches of years of use. To her, this interview was not just a job, it was survival. As she waited, she noticed the other candidates. Some laughed with confidence, others scrolled through their phones as though the opportunity didn't even matter. Aisha clutched her folder tighter, filled with handwritten notes, certificates from free online courses, and a resume she had polished 100 times. She whispered to herself, "You can do this. Just one chance." She thought of her mother, working double shifts at the hospital, and her younger brother still in school. If she succeeded today, everything could change. If she failed, the rent due next week would crush them. Finally, her name was called. "Miss Aisha, please step in." The conference room was wide, with tall glass windows that allowed the sunlight to pour in. At the center was a long table with 4 interviewers sitting stiffly, their suits sharp, their pens ready. Their eyes flickered to her as she entered, and instantly, she felt their judgment. She bowed slightly, introduced herself, and placed her folder gently on the table. One of the panelists, a man with rimless glasses and an impatient look, leaned back and smirked. "So, Miss Aisha. No big-name university. No work experience in a large firm. Tell us, why should we hire you?" Aisha swallowed, trying to steady her voice. "Because I am not afraid of working harder than anyone else. I may not have the same background, but I've taught myself every skill you require. I've led community projects, I've solved problems with limited resources, and I bring not just knowledge, but commitment." The woman on the panel raised her eyebrow. "Community projects? That's hardly corporate experience. Do you even understand what it means to work in a company of this scale?" The man in glasses chuckled quietly, and another interviewer scribbled something on his pad. Aisha felt her chest tighten, but she pushed on. "I may not have the same path as others, but I believe that what makes someone valuable is not where they come from, but how far they're willing to go." Her words hung in the air, but instead of respect, she was met with muffled laughter. One of the interviewers leaned toward another and whispered something, causing both of them to grin. Aisha felt the sting of humiliation rise in her cheeks. She tightened her grip on the folder in her lap, forcing herself not to look down. Then came the question that cut deeper than any other. "Miss Aisha, do you really think someone like you can represent a company of this level? Look around you. We need people who already know how to succeed. Not those who are still trying to catch up." Her heart pounded. For a moment, she felt her courage slipping away, and the old voices of doubt in her head screamed louder, "You're not good enough. You don't belong here." She almost lowered her eyes in defeat, but then she remembered her mother's voice the night before, "Aisha, even if the whole world rejects you, don't you ever reject yourself." So she looked directly at the panel, her voice trembling but steady. "Yes. I do believe someone like me can represent this company. Because people like me know what it means to fight for every step. People like me don't give up. And one day, it's that kind of persistence that will carry your company further than privilege ever could." For a second, silence filled the room. She thought maybe she had gotten through. But then the man with glasses smirked again and said coldly, "Thank you, Miss Aisha. That will be all." Her heart sank. That was the polite dismissal. The rejection before the rejection. She stood, nodded, and gathered her folder. As she walked out, she could hear the faint sound of laughter behind her, like knives in her back. She left the building with her head bowed, the sunlight outside too bright for her heavy heart. Every step felt heavier, and by the time she reached the bus stop, her tears spilled. She had dreamed of this opportunity for so long, and it had ended not with fair consideration, but with humiliation. She whispered to herself, "I wasn't even given a chance." But what Aisha did not know was that she had been watched. From the glass walls of the upper floor, a man had stood silently, observing the interview room. He was tall, with silvering hair at his temples, and a gaze that had learned to read people far beyond resumes and polished words. He had seen the way the panel dismissed her, the way she refused to bow even as they mocked her, the way her voice carried truth even when it trembled. That man was Daniel Carter, the CEO of the company. Daniel had risen from nothing himself. He had once been a boy selling newspapers to pay for his books, rejected by countless firms for not having the right degree. He had vowed, when he built his own empire, that he would never forget what true talent looked like, the kind that could not be measured on paper. He saw in Aisha a reflection of his own journey. And as he turned away from the window, his decision was already made. For Aisha, the bus ride home was long and silent. She replayed every second of the interview in her mind, each cruel laugh echoing like a reminder of failure. She thought of how she would face her mother, how she would explain that she didn't get the job, that they would have to struggle again to make ends meet. But beneath the despair, a small flame still burned, the memory of how she had stood tall, even when they tried to tear her down. That night, as she sat by the window in their small apartment, she whispered a quiet promise to herself. "One day, someone will see me for who I really am." She had no idea that, one day, would come sooner than she thought. The next morning, Aisha woke up with the same heaviness in her chest. She tried to shake it off, convincing herself to look for new openings, but a part of her felt broken. She had done everything right, yet she had been dismissed like she didn't matter. As she sat with her cup of tea, her phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Hello. Is this Miss Aisha?" Her voice was hesitant. "Yes, this is Aisha. This is the office of Mr. Daniel Carter, CEO of Sterling Enterprises. He would like to meet you personally this afternoon. Are you available?" Aisha froze. The CEO? Why would the CEO of one of the biggest companies in the city want to meet her? She stammered, "Why yes, I'm available." The hours leading up to the meeting felt like a dream. She arrived at the building, her heart pounding harder than before. Instead of being led to the crowded interview room, she was escorted to the top floor. The office was grand but warm, with books lining the shelves and sunlight pouring across the wooden desk. Daniel Carter stood there, smiling. "Miss Aisha, thank you for coming. Please, sit." She sat nervously, clutching her folder. Daniel leaned forward, his eyes kind but firm. "I watched your interview yesterday. I saw how they treated you." Her heart dropped, he had seen her humiliation. She lowered her gaze, ashamed. But Daniel continued, "And I saw something else. I saw courage. Honesty. Persistence. Qualities that cannot be written on a resume. When they dismissed you, I remembered myself years ago. And I promised that when I saw true grit, I would never let it go unnoticed." Aisha blinked rapidly, unsure if she was hearing him correctly. Daniel's smile widened. "You are exactly the kind of person this company needs. If you'll accept, I would like to personally offer you a position, not at the bottom, but in our leadership trainee program. We'll train you, guide you, and you'll have my support every step of the way." Her breath caught in her throat. Tears welled up in her eyes. "Sir, are you serious? After what happened?" Daniel's voice softened. "Especially after what happened. Because anyone can shine when everything is easy. But you shined when the room tried to break you." Aisha's hands trembled as she nodded. "Yes. Yes, I accept." In that moment, the rejection that had crushed her just a day before turned into the greatest opportunity of her life. And as she left the CEO's office with a new contract in her hands, she whispered a prayer of gratitude, knowing her life had changed forever. So remember this, sometimes rejection is just a door closing so the right one can open. And if this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Goodness Corner, because here we share stories that prove kindness and courage still matter.